Welcome, Anna. Let's jump right in. You are one of the founders of your program. For our audience members who are just getting started, what are two lessons you learned when starting Growing Climate Solutions of Southwest Florida, or something that you wish you would have known?
Well, thank you, Deneine, and it's such a pleasure to be here. I would have to say that one of the things that I learned over the past 2 years is that it's really hard to change the mind of a climate skeptic. Their hearts don't change very easily, even when you show them data and facts and information that we would rationally think is scientific. In fact, I think in these hyper partisan times, climate skepticism is just part of social identity in many cases. It's part of their identity politics. So the best thing I've been able to find is that they'll tolerate and listen to you. Instead, I found that there are many residents and people intermixed with that population that are predisposed to help you, that really want to get involved in this topic. And the idea is to be a resource for those people, to provide them advice, to give them input, to give them a forum to connect with others and to act. And the other thing I would say is really important when you're starting an organization is to have consistent communication with the people you're trying to reach. We've put together a newsletter and a flyer that comes out once a month. And it's really important that the quality of the message be there. They have a lot of things coming into that inbox, and we have pretty good open rates and readership because the stuff we put in there isn't just fluff. It's valuable information that's useful to them, things they can use every day. And it has to be really consistent. If your newsletter goes out once a month, it has to be in that inbox, not a week late, not a week early, but just reliably there. It speaks to the professionalism of your organization, that you're not just an ad hoc bunch of folks getting together, but that you're really running a tight shop.
Well, I love that. So consistency is the key. Quality is important. And, while we're talking about kind of changing the hearts and minds, one of the things that we have seen is a growing climate movement on the right. Anna, how would you engage conservatives on climate in your community? Focus, on creating that mutually beneficial common ground.
Well, we are in Southwest Florida, which is a very conservative part of our state. And so negotiating that has been part of the most important part of my job. And I think the first thing you do is you have to be careful with the message and the language that you use and the topics that you pick up climate with. You don't want to start with words like carbon tax because tax doesn't play to them. You don't want to speak down to people or make them feel like they're not as enlightened as you are. That's a turnoff also. So it's really important to do a lot of listening and engage with your audience through themes that are important to them, that speak to those social identity characteristics. Things like water in Southwest Florida is really important, or asthma if they're a doctor or physician, or possibly golf if they're a golfer and they're outdoors all day on the greens. Bring the topic of climate to them through a topic that they can engage with you and feel they're on par with you. And so in Southwest Florida, we start with water and talk about algal blooms and the nexus between warming climate and algal blooms. You don't come out blaring climate. You come out talking about the deteriorating water quality, something they can relate to. Another topic that's really plays well to this audience are things about economics and jobs and the market. So to make the point, we want to speak to them through their social identity politics. So we will talk about American ingenuity and the number of really high paid technology jobs that we can generate in our economy. You want to talk about the power of this market, that if people start buying sustainable goods, that will increase demand and then the market will respond accordingly. These are conversations that appeal to people through a language and a dialogue in which they can participate. You don't want to start with regulation or the government should do this. Those that audience doesn't want the government to tell them what to do. So you have to pick up the themes that work with them and turn that dialogue into your climate discussion. I would also say that the third most important thing might be to have answers to questions and arguments you know are going to come up. And specifically, ones that come up over and over are like, why should the United States be involved in this? India and China are the bigger polluters. Or this is going to increase prices in the US, and we already have inflation. So you want to have some rebuttal prepared for that, that again, doesn't fire you up and you're not attacking somebody, but rather maybe ask, why do you think so? And listen to their response before you respond with your, your shtick, because you talk to different people in different ways.
Well, that's great. So let me just recap. We're thinking language, it's phrasing. Sometimes it's really about listening first and focusing on common ground, such as economic benefit.
Right. And approaching it.
Mm-hmm.
And approaching it through the topics that mean something to them. So if you're talking to somebody who's the banker, talk to them about social governance.
Okay, thank you for that. What advice would you give to anyone who wants to do a similar program?
Well, I think it's a two-sided coin. First of all, I would say before you start a program, make sure you know what your message is. Be clear about the message and the commitment and your vision, because people will ask you, exactly what are you up to? How are you going to do that? And you need to have those answers to be taken seriously. But at the same time, be ready to pivot. Flexibility is really important because circumstances change. So you have to be ready to adapt and follow the money and the momentum. So for example, we listened to our constituency and listened to the kinds of things they wanted to see happen. And they talked to us about trees and landscape. So we started a program about planting trees, and then we found money to help plant more trees. So we grew the program around planting trees, not because the trees are going to change the climate situation, but because the trees can be a tool through which we engage people to learn more about climate. Likewise, we're about education and we wanted to work with youth. So we partnered with the Girl Scouts and we created a program there. But in the era of COVID, they didn't have the bandwidth. And instead of pursuing that and keep pushing something with a partner that just couldn't manage it at this point, we finished the project and we put it aside and we grew other things that developed in the process. So I would say, keep a clear message, but be ready to pivot.
I love that, the pivoting for unexpected circumstances and being able to actually adjust to the need that's out there, moving where the money or the momentum is. Okay, I have another question for you, Ana. What climate actions can people do in their communities every day? Could you provide some immediately actionable suggestions or items?
Oh, of course. Yeah, we talk to people all the time, and there are different levels in which we ask people to engage. One is at the very personal level, like what can they do today? And those include all the things we talk about amongst ecoAmerica. We can eat more plant-based foods. We can walk and bike more. We can invest in our homes to make them more energy efficient. We can lower the shades and turn the thermometer down. These are the kinds of things that you do individually. And then as a head of a household, you can bring those ideas forward to your family and friends. So communicating that you do that and sharing your enthusiasm about how successful you are with your friends and family will make that idea contagious. So it's like being on a diet and you lose a couple of pounds and everybody shares how they did it. The same thing happens with climate. I started composting I told my friends about it, suddenly people were bringing banana peels and stuff to my composter because everybody wanted to be part of it and share in the enthusiasm. So those are all the other things. But then there's this systemic change. And we need more people to get engaged in systemic change. And, that's the advocacy piece. And it's very hard to advocate on all fronts on climate. You can't be a jack of all trades. So what I tell many of the people who approach us is pick something you're super passionate about. If you love to ride a bike and you ride recreationally, then you should be engaged in the discussion of roads and complete streets and how money is spent in transportation, because you ride those streets. You can speak authentically to that. If you're a chef or you like to even cook recreationally, well, then learn about the sustainable foods and the stores in your area that have sustainable produce and the different farmers markets, and get involved, and then go and do something, right? And advocate about things that coincide or mix with your own personal passion and interests. One, you're going to be more knowledgeable about it because you experience it. Two, you'll be able to speak authentically to it and it won't be a fad. And three, you'll stick with it because it's part of your hobbies. So you then take something that you love to do and you take it the next step and you write about it, you go to meetings, you talk to others, and do that to one or two things. And that will really help bring your audience along to do change that's actionable.
Thanks for that, Anna. I always think about our climate action sheets that we have on the Path to Positive website that gives some very practical suggestions and action items that individuals can do every day. Our catchphrase for 2022 is every person, every day, and talking about it with your friends. Thank you for that suggestion, because I think that's so critical. Those things that we're passionate about, we can talk about forever, right? Okay, I think that we are nearly out of time, and how fast that time flies. This has been so very insightful, and I can't thank you enough for your wisdom, sharing your wisdom and experience with us. Dr. Ana Puszkin-Chevlin, we thank you so much, and we will be back after the short break.
Hello, my name is Jenny Vanos, and I'm a sustainability scientist and professor at Arizona State University. With the help of the Bright Cities program and Healthy Babies, Bright Futures, my team and I are continually collecting important data with cities and schools that help inform evidence-based practices to lessen heat and pollution exposures today and to minimize future health impacts. Our work in Tempe and Phoenix, Arizona is specifically working to understand the role of vegetative barriers, such as trees, hedges, and other plants, in helping to reduce roadside air pollution in playgrounds, and thus exposures to young children, while also providing cooling.
In 1982, a group of conservation leaders gathered in a meeting that led to what is today known as the Land Trust Alliance. They understood then that land is the answer to so many of the challenges facing our world. Today, it's easy to feel helpless in the face of climate change, a fractured society, polluted waters, and health crises. But Land Trust's work can address these threats. Every acre a land trust stewards reduces greenhouse gases. Every family farm and ranch that is conserved provides sustainable food. Protected forests and wetlands make communities more resilient to severe weather. And preserved lands offer places for people of all backgrounds and abilities to find common ground around a love of the outdoors. Every day, land trusts show us that land is still the answer.
What is vitality? Vitality is life. Vitality is energy. Vitality is passion. Vitality is change. Vitality is vital. But what is vital? Touch is vital. Love is vital. Breath is vital. Food and air and water and soil and nature, the earth is vital. But for who? A vital earth for mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, farmers, fishers, ranchers, teachers, students, snakes, ospreys, zebras, coral, cattle, communities, everyone and everything on earth. Everyone. A vital earth for everyone.